Good morning, friends, and thanks for coming back for another update at the Up North house. This is update number 18. Last week in update 17, we had a little bit of a cliffhanger. So if you haven't seen that one yet, pause the video. We'll be here when you get back. Go watch that one so you're not confused about what you're about to see in this video, where we hope to wrap up that cliffhanger. So now we'll get into it. This is our kitchen. You're very aware of that by now, I'm sure, if you've been following along. This is our north wall. Last week, we began the process of building a cabinet for this space right here between these two windows, using the materials that used to be in a cabinet that was on that wall originally. If you've been around a while, you may also know that our ultimate goal is to perhaps next year put a small bank of windows here above our future kitchen sink that faces west. And that would give us more evening light and more of a view because it's out to our private backyard. Our north facing windows are very, very, very close to our neighbor, and they don't like us staring at them. So we're not gonna focus on that view. This house was originally built on 40 acres, so there didn't used to be a house over there. So we're gonna be focusing more in the west direction going forward. And that's why, one of the reasons why we needed to reuse those upper cabinets. And you're gonna see that process today. I'm also working on a kitchen island, which should go generally in this area, and a kitchen hutch, which is gonna be living right over here. If we go out here to the garage, you'll see what we're working on today. John's been hard at work this week on our dog run in the back, which is really cool, as well as all of the interior projects you're about to see now. I have my paint station set up. If you remember from last week's video, I left off doing the first coat of paint. I'm ready for the second coat right here, and that is this beautiful green color. It'll be more beautiful with a second coat. I've also got to fill all my little holes and patch and prime this dresser for the island. And then I have, of course, all the drawers to work on, as well as the top to the hutch, which is right back there. So we got a lot to do. John's still building that cabinet. He's still taking down all the finishes. I'm putting on new finishes. We got a lot going on, and I'm so glad you decided to join us again for the next update. Hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoy sharing it with you. Okay, bottom of the hutch is done. I put the original knobs back on. I like them way better on the new paint than on the orange stained piece. Now I have more room in the barn to work on the top portion as well as the kitchen island. All right, we are at 2 coats. I think it needs one more coat. It is looking fantastic in my opinion. And I have the drawers as well. And I also was able to remove the pulls from the previous rat drawers from the cabinetry in the kitchen. And now I have to clean these up so that I can put them on our new kitchen island drawers. John and I are working on our furniture in the barn, and then lo and behold, we got a call. And guess what's showing up today? I'm so excited about this. That right there on the tractor is part of our new stove. Woo-hoo-hoo. So we get to see that. I'm so excited. partially inside the building. It's actually all inside the building. It's just in pieces. Very exciting times. We are going to be seeing next where they're going to be putting the chimney stack. So there's a drill bit sticking through the ceiling where they did a pilot hole, and I'll show you where that comes down. This is that service stairway in the back of the house. And you probably remember this. This is the bathroom upstairs. This is the bedroom in the back. There's a huge closet in this room. And if you go inside the closet, it's like it was tailor-made to receive a chimney stack. So that's where the drill bit's sitting. They're going to be putting in their insulated double wall chimney stack all the way up through here to a section of the roof up top and making the exit vent. So that's pretty exciting. This whole space was here and it's exactly the right size for code. I think that's awesome. Worked out great. So we're gonna see what that looks like in a little while and give you the update. All right, here is the next look at what's happening here. This is the box that's gonna channel up the chimney, essentially, the vent stack. So there it is. If it's just exactly right, this is pretty exciting. Okay, here are the guys doing the chimney. They brought in a bucket truck, and that little square section to the left of the peak they're on right now is the section of roof that the new chimney vent is going to come out. So the chimney they're standing next to now is the one that comes down through to the kitchen. And the new one will be over to the left on that squared off part. Okay, here is the final look at the double wall going through the closet in this upstairs bedroom. They have one more step to build a box, a metal box around this just for extra measure. Fits perfectly, came out the top. You already saw the new vent space at the top on the roof. And this is just for reference. I think I may have showed it earlier, but I've showed a lot of things. This is that back bedroom upstairs. And that is the area in this corner of that closet. There was a little perfect nook going through, and the stove is sitting directly under us. So I'll show you where that is. It is looking amazing. I'll show you that next. Okay, here is the stove so far. It still needs the pipes connected up to the chimney there, but this is where it sits inside the kitchen. I'm so excited. It's actually centered between these two doors. This door goes to the basement. That door goes upstairs to the room where we just were. It's that service stairwell in the back of the house. And this is the stove. So this is a metal mat for fire safety. Underneath it, it comes with that. And this is why we had to have that clearance, because this corner is actually the one that's considered the heat corner as well. And we had to have the clearance between here and this corner. So that's perfectly cleared, perfectly where it's supposed to be. I'm very excited about that. The stove is looking amazing. I can do more details about it on another video if you'd like. This is the HECO stove by DS Stoves. It's made by the Amish. Here's the brand. HECO by DS Stoves. Very cool. There's lots and lots of options. You can get more options than we got, but this is what we wanted here. We have a glass door for the firebox on this side. This is the oven. You can get glass for the oven, but we opted not to do that. But this is what it looks like. It's a nice big area. Everything would fit in there. Nice wood handles on everything. I love it. Love it, love it. It's really, really great. So very excited about this. Been waiting a long time, as you know, and it is finally here. More about this possibly in another video, but that's what it's looking like so far. Okie dokie, we are back at it after the stove installation. I'm sanding the top of the hutch now. Actually, you just saw me doing the top of the hutch, and this will have that back on it. Again, there's a different thing I'm doing with that, but I do have to sand the inside and the outside of this because you'll be able to see this through the glass doors on the front. So I'll be sanding for a while. While I'm doing that, we are actually the next day after the stove delivery. So we've been working on seasoning the stove, or basically doing its first burn in here and kind of burning off all the fumes and whatnot. We also have brought in the things to dry. This is the island. This is the hutch. It's looking very cute in here already. Remember, the island is going to have a butcher block top on it that matches the butcher block that we're going to put on the sink area back there. And this is the stove, looking wonderful. It's like burning all warm. I even have the oven part turned on to see if we can get it up to temp. So far, it's up to 300 and holding. I let it go down a little bit, so I didn't get it all up to 400 yet. But I'm trying to get up to pizza temperature because that's very important to me. So it's looking good. I'm loving it. We're doing great. We're going to be sanding and walking in and out all day. It's a nice rainy, cloudy, chilly June day. So we're loving the nice wood heat in there. So you'll see what's coming next. Right, you saw John sanding and me priming in the last clip. This is what it's looking like. It's really difficult to sand beadboard and preserve the bead. So he's been able to do that. He's scraping some of this part he's actually doing with a wire brush. A little bit more sanding to do on that, and he's also sanding all the bits and pieces that are not connected to a door still. So making good progress there. I have over here started with the paint on this piece. I'm going to continue to do that. And John also was scrubbing. He used acetone and a brush to scrub those poles. And looky here, just as we thought, they are beautiful copper. So you're going to see, this is one coat of paint obviously, but it's going to look so cool on that green. These are the same pulls from the rack cabinet. We have a little bit more work to do and some polishing to do on there, but they are going to be so cool. Copper pulls. Who would have thought? So beautiful. All right, here is what it's looking like. I've gotten all the painting done on the major pieces. Now I need to address the back of the hutch. Remember, it had a mirror in it before. It also had some glass shelves. So I'll show you what we're doing with that in just a moment. Okay, back in the carriage house, I've been working still some to do on the doors, the glass front doors. The glass shelving over there, we're going to keep for another use and another project perhaps. We have decided to use some more of the rat boards. If you'll remember, I'm calling them that because it's shocking that we're able to get them so clean. These are the boards that were sanded down, replaned, and sanded back down that were from the original kitchen cabinetry at the back of the kitchen, and now we have planed them back down. I'm working on painting them. They have a few more coats to go, and then they will go inside the hutch. So that's coming. For the back part of the hutch, John was able to get that mirror out. As I think I said earlier in the video, It didn't break, which is amazing, but we got it out of there, and it wasn't even glued. So this is the surface it was in front of. It's all clean. I didn't have to do anything to it. It's nice and smooth. I think it's like a 1/8 inch thick plywood piece, and I'm going to be covering it with peel and stick wallpaper, large scale floral. It's got some of the green in it. You can see it there. And we're gonna see what that looks like. So what my plan is, I'll show it on time lapse so you can see it all. I'm gonna put a piece in the middle and then do 2 pieces on either side and trim them to fit so that the middle panel is kind of the focal point. So I'll make that kind of, in quilting we say fussy cut. So I'll fussy cut it so that it is, you know, showing the big flowers that I want to show in the very middle, and then I'll put the additional pieces matched up with the pattern on the outside. So I'll show that fast, and then we'll show it when it's all done. While I'm doing wallpaper in the carriage house for the back of the hutch, John is going to be working between these 2 windows where he is working to build that cabinet. And the thing I need to do to help prepare for that is to notch out this teeny bit that juts in. Our cabinet is going to sit flush between the window framing on both sides. And there's this about 1 inch wide, 1/2 inch wide section I need to take out in order to make that sit flush and not leave us with a weird wall gap up top. So I'll work on that with the multi-tool. Then John is going to come behind me and sand the rest of this down. You can see where we've made it to on this. So we're going to sand this down just like the other boards that he's working on and restain it before the cabinet goes in place. All right, that is the process I use to put on the wallpaper in this case. A little easier on a board than on, you know, a real wall, honestly. And I use the peel and stick, which is also fairly easy too. You can reposition it for a little while until it gets completely stuck on there. So this is what it's looking like. I didn't have all of the specific tools for wallpaper because I don't honestly do a lot of wallpapering, but I did have a dough scraper, which is now no longer a dough scraper, but it does have this nice beveled flat edge, and it worked great to kind of scrape along the surface and work out any of the bubbles and make sure that I was sticking it to the entire surface. The other thing you saw me doing is I marked a center line on the board, and then I made a small crease in my wallpaper, which you can barely still see right here. It'll work out over time, so that I could line up my center point and avoid having a seam down the middle. This board is actually big enough, or the small enough I should say, so that I could have just put 2 full pieces of wallpaper next to each other, but I wanted to center the main panel and then have my seams offset visually so that it was a little bit more kind of pleasing to the eye and didn't have a big giant seam straight down the middle, because you are going to see the seams. You can see it here. And one way to help with the seams too is to, of course, pay attention to the pattern on the fabric and make sure that you're matching up where your pattern continues. On wallpaper and fabric, you're always going to have the edge where the pattern stops on the printer, right? So you want to make sure that you shift the paper along into the position so that those pieces that overlap will match up. It's sort of like a little key for you to go by there. You can buy wallpaper that's just striped. That's what a lot of the paper was in this house, so that it's simpler and you don't have anything to match like that. But I chose the big, large floral because I don't have any problem with matching that up properly. So this is what I'm doing. This is how I did it. There are so many awesome ways and so many tricks to doing this. If you have any ideas to share with each other, go ahead and mention them in the comments. And let's go see what John is up to in the kitchen. All right, staining is done. Now I'm gonna paint the wall above, and then we'll come back and put the clear coat on top of that once it sets up. Alrighty, it has arrived. The time when we are going to now build this cabinet in place here. Remember, from the beginning of the video, I mentioned and reminded you, these used to live up on that wall over there. So we've left them the exact height. These are 5 feet plus, which is an amazing size pantry cabinet. And what we've done here, these are the doors. You can see where the old hardware was on here, and we're gonna put that back. When we put this between the windows, we have about a 2.5 inch gap on side to side if we center it on here. So we also have the original hinges still on here. So we're going to get the dimension across here by lining up the doors, how they'll be, and putting this next to it so that we have the measurement. And then we're going to reinstall the hinge to its receiving part here and rip this down to the proper width. We also need to have a floor frame built. You're gonna see us doing that. We are using those rat boards, which you've heard me mention already. These are the same ones I used in the hutch over there. This is actually the offcut from one of those. We have more of these. There's, I think, 3 more, and these are gonna make up the shelves for inside. So we'll be working out the dimensions on that. The very first thing we're gonna be doing is building a frame using some cut down 2x4s on the floor so that it has its structure. So the bottom shelf made out of this board will be resting a few inches above the floor, and then we'll have room as well to open the doors of the shelf without rubbing on our new floor and all of that, kind of a kick plate or a toe kick or whatever you call it underneath the cabinet on that. And we do have this one extra board here that we can use to rip down and make a trim for the bottom when it's all said and done. So there's a lot of explanation, but just to show kind of what our thought process is, that's how we're coming up with this. It's pretty amazing how nicely these doors kind of fit in this position like they wanted to be there, let's be real. And they'll be very accessible for us without getting on a ladder over there. So that's gonna be great. So I'm gonna show you some of this process in fast mode, and we will check back in to see how it's going. All right, there is the frame. Now you can see how our little shelf will kind of sit on the frame, and we'll screw it down solid. And it has a flush edge at the front. So, and we painted it black so it would kind of go away. Our next step is to take an extra piece of this molding, or this tongue and groove, and make a piece of molding to go along the bottom at a 1/2 inch high, so that our actual shelving pieces, our doors and our sides of the shelf, will sit up a 1/2 inch off the ground. And that way it won't rub or hit on the floor as we open it. And when you open it, you'll see a little 1/4 to a 1/2 inch reveal of the black under the bottom shelf, and it will go up as so. And then we have to notch the board, the first tongue and groove board that goes against the wall, so that we can accommodate for this little bump out of the wainscoting. So we're gonna notch in right here so that this part sits flush and the bottom part sits flush. So we're working on that in the next few clips, and we'll see how that turns out. Okie dokie, this is what it's looking like. You can see the notch that John made using the table saw and some chisels. You can see the little lip of trim down there that I installed in the time lapse. And now this is notched against that wainscoting and follows flush all the way up against the wall. So our next step is to start installing the shelving on the bottom, the middle, and the top, as well as reassembling the tongue and groove pieces for the sides. All right, here's what it's looking like. We have assembled 3 on this one side, and we've made it to a part on the framing where it's not going to be wide enough for another full piece. So we've measured the distance using the part we're going to do for the front panel here, and we're using the table saw to cut down the next piece of tongue and groove to fit in this gap. Once we get both sides assembled, we'll finish installing all the shelving all the way up, and then we will finish it off with the doors on the front. So I also wanted to point out, you'll see me with the drill, I'm using these little finishing screws, which I've never used before. Frankly, when I've done finishing work with like window trim and different things, I've always done nails. But now they make these. I guess it's been a minute since I've done fancy trim work. They're great. It's easy to countersink and fill. They're very small but strong, and they're self-tapping. So we've been able to put this first tongue and groove piece in actually all the way through to the framing behind that as well. So it's really solid and secure, and all the screws are sinking away and will be able to be filled and hidden very easily. And now we do the doors. Look at that. So much room. It's looking good. And we even got to make a feature of the old rat chew. That's kind of fun. Final look. Here is our built-in cabinet. I love it so much. Here are the doors. They look wonderful. We still have to stain it, of course. Everything opens up nicely. We're gonna be putting a top plate across the top so it looks like a finished shelf on top as well. And I did add magnet closures to both doors so that it can close securely, nice and firm when the knobs are put back on. It is looking wonderful. Lots of tall and deep pantry storage for all the containers and all the things. Even have a plug in there that will be rewired for future use. I'm loving it. Boy, oh boy, did a lot happen in this video. I'm loving the way this cabinet looks in its new position here in the floor. This is the lowest part of the floor, if you'll remember. And now that that's here, it really brings up your eye to a higher point, and that the dip in the room really does sort of go away. So that's really cool. Just as a side note, normally when we do our updates, it's week by week. Whatever happens in a week, you may have noticed, we just put it in the videos. It's for our reference when we look back, and for fun and for ease of making videos. But this week, actually, this video took a couple of weeks to film because a lot was happening all at the same time. Here's a sneak peek of some of it. Not only did we get the stove put in, we got started, not we, but our professionals got started on our foundation work as well. So we had the stove delivered, foundation started. Also, our furnace was put in, and John and I worked on cabinetry and tried basically to stay out of the way as much as possible while filming. So lots going on. You're going to see those foundation updates next week. I did split it into different separate videos so that it would all be in one place because it's really exciting to see. I love the way our furniture turned out in here. I love that it is not looking like a built-in, but then we do still have our built-in things going on in here as well, which I am so excited about. I have said that 1,000 times, but I am truly so excited. I hope you are enjoying this update as much as we have enjoyed it, and I hope you check back next week on Thursday at the Up North house to find out how it goes with our foundation fixes.